Joel Embiid needs knee surgery. We're going to break it down right here on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Locked On 76ers. I'm your host, Kayla Santiago, sideline reporter for the Delaware Bluecoats, the NBA G League affiliate of the Philadelphia 76ers. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're listening to us wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can catch us now on the free daily newsletter at lockedondaily.com to get your updates on all things Philadelphia 76ers. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets. That's new FanDuel customers if your first $5 bet wins. So make sure you go check that out today. So we're going to break everything down on what's been happening in the last 24 to 48 hours of the Philadelphia 76ers. They've lost 5 out of their last 6 games, including to the Milwaukee Bucks last time out. Joel Embiid talks a little bit about knee surgery. Embiid has spoken to ESPN reporters and has gone back on his statement. So does he need knee surgery? What is happening with Joel Embiid? Will he play the rest of the season? And then we have to preview the game happening tomorrow night between the Raptors and the Philadelphia 76ers. So we will get to Joel Embiid and the knee surgery comments in just a bit in the show, but we are going to stay locked on with what just happened with the Philadelphia 76ers. So Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George all played in that game against Milwaukee Bucks. No Giannis. Damian Lillard, though, he went absolutely off in that game. 8 triples from beyond the arc to lead the Bucks in that contest. They made 24 out of 55 three-pointers, and they beat the Sixers 135 to 127. Now, the 76ers look good in different areas in this game, but how do you not close out and then defend the three-point line? That's the biggest thing that I looked at in that game against the Milwaukee Bucks. Yes, there were some contested threes out there, but being slow to run out in front of the perimeter and not putting your hand up, that is just laziness, unacceptable if you're the Philadelphia 76ers, and they have really struggled. Now, we've touched on this on Locked On 76ers in the past. The last time the 76ers won 4 games in a row, they went 2-10, or 2 for 10, we should say. Now, they have lost 5 out of their last 6 games and lost 3 straight games as well ever since that 4-game winning streak. And they have been getting back to being healthy. Now, I know Paul George has the finger brace and everything in between, but this big 3 ain't the big 3. Okay, they are not playing like the big 3. Now, Tyrese Maxey, he did go off in that game again. 39 points. Embiid did have a double-double, 27 points, 12 rebounds. Paul George behind them with 12 points. The big 3 has only played 12 games together, including that Bucks game. We're waiting to see if they are going to play again or together against Toronto. But at the same time, what is the 76ers team doing? When you're giving up that many threes, you are not going to win a basketball game. And this is the thing for the Philadelphia 76ers. They have one of the easier schedules going forward, really, in the entire NBA, especially the Eastern Conference. And if we take a look at what's next for this team, I mean, when you look at it, the Bucks without Giannis is a game that you need to win. Going forward, trying to get into this play-in tournament, trying to have a chance to be able to push forward and actually make some noise in the playoffs, you need to win games like this when their best player is not in the game. Now, this is the funny thing about the Philadelphia 76ers. They tend to win games you don't think they're going to win. And then the games they should win, like a game without Giannis and the Bucks and the 76ers having their big 3, they don't. And it's crazy to say that the 76ers, yes, they're starting to get healthy. The big 3 is playing more games together. But right now, they've looked better without the big 3. They looked better with either Tyrese Maxey and Paul George or just Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. Not saying that's going to win them a ton of games, but they've looked better in those chemistry teams. Tyrese Maxey has been able to light it up no matter what's going on out there, and he's been the best player to watch for the Philadelphia 76ers, but they can't uplift his efforts and come out there with a win. And it has been a struggle. The 76ers are on the struggle bus right now, and Josh Harris did come out and say, and this is from the article that my co-host Keith Pompey wrote in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Of course, he's the Sixers beat writer. And he just said, I'm really optimistic. We're going to make a playoff run. Got to keep everybody healthy. This team is starting to get healthy. They're getting healthy at the right time. Once again, this is quoting Josh Harris from the article that Keith Pompey wrote in the Philadelphia Inquirer. And when you look at that, yes, there is some truth to having Joel Embiid healthy. There's some truth to having him out there and being able to have a playoff push. But this team ain't going to go anywhere if they're playing like this with the big three, because at the end of the day, that's what you brought Paul George in for. You brought him in to be able to play with this big three, and it is not working for the Philadelphia 76ers right now. So when we look at the Eastern Conference, the Bucks, they jump at the fifth place. They sit there right now at 28-23. The 76ers at 20-32 there behind the Chicago Bulls. But this is the thing for Philadelphia. You only need to get into the 10th seed to be in the play-in, and they're one seed below that right now. But at the same time, is that really where you want to be? Do you want to have to play 2 games to be able to even get into the playoffs as that 8th seed? Not really for the 76ers. Not only that, you play in the play-in, and then you have to go face a tough first-round opponent as well. And yes, the 76ers are going to be able to make it tough against any team if they're healthy and if Joel Embiid is healthy and he is good to go. But at the end of the day, when you can't defeat teams like Giannis and the Bucks without Giannis, and you're giving up that many threes, I understand Dame Dollar can go out there and light it up. But what are they talking about giving up that many threes? Damian Lillard absolutely going off for 43 points in that contest. The 76ers had that game to win, and they did not win. Now, the 76ers do still have some time yet. Once again, the Bulls are at 22-31, and the Hawks are at 25 wins as well. And the Bulls, when you look at their schedule, they kind of have a tough go at it as well. They play the Pistons back-to-back, and the Pistons are no team to sleep on right now because you saw how they play the 76ers without Cade Cunningham. This team is fiery. They're ready to go. They're hyping the position they're at right now in the Eastern Conference. But those 2 games are both in Chicago. So those are winnable games. Now, I do have the Pistons in both of those games. Then the Bulls take the Knicks on the road. Then they play the Suns at home. And then they play the 76ers once again. That's on Monday, February 24th. So the 76ers, and Keith Pompey and I have gone back and forth saying this as well, they need to win these games coming up. These are important games for them to win. It wasn't as important as the beginning of January where they had an easier schedule and then they went to a really hard schedule and you kind of expected them to play a little rough throughout that hard schedule against the Cavs, the Celtics, teams like that. Denver Nuggets as well. But when you look at it right now for the 76ers, these are games they can win and these are games that they need to win. And if you want to talk about this big 3, we haven't seen a big 3. It's been a big 2 of Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid, sometimes just a big 1 of Tyrese Maxey. He has been the one to play, to go out there. And the 76ers did not make it out against the Bucks. Now, once again, Josh Harris is very optimistic about what the 76ers can do. And his message to the team has been, it's a tough season, but we're all in this together. He said that at the Super Bowl, he is happy that the team's 3 stars are finally healthy and playing together. Now, granted, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl give a little bit of a luck to another Philadelphia team that plays in the Wells Fargo Center for the Philadelphia 76ers. But he also said, in particular, Joel Embiid is a warrior. I know he's fighting through some stuff, and I'm really optimistic that they're going to make a deep playoff run, which we alluded to earlier. Once again, that is from the article that my co-host Keith Pompey wrote in the Philadelphia Inquirer. I definitely recommend you guys go and check that out because it's fantastic, the insight and everything in between. So with that being said, Josh Harris clearly owns 3 different teams, the Devils, the Commanders, and the Philadelphia 76ers. The Commanders made a deep run to the NFC Conference Championship. Maybe that's where his focus was. Maybe now it's back with the Philadelphia 76ers, and we'll see if they're able to come out on top continuing forward. But these are games they need to win. The 76ers don't have that tough of a schedule coming up compared to other teams in the Eastern Conference. Because we take a look, and we're going to get to this a little bit later in the podcast, but they do play the Toronto Raptors. Then they take on the Nets. Now, the Celtics, it's clearly a tough game there for the 76ers. That's on Thursday, February 20th. But then you have the Nets again. So you have the Nets on the road after you play the Raptors at home. Then you have the Nets at home on the 22nd. Then we alluded to that game against the Chicago Bulls. These are must-win games for the Philadelphia 76ers if they want to get into that play-in contention right now in the standings, because you don't want to slip too far down. Now, granted, the teams under them, I wouldn't say necessarily have the best chance at surpassing the Philadelphia 76ers. Really not any chance at all. I mean, the Nets, they do have 18 wins, the Raptors with 16, but the Raptors are trying to capture the flag as well. They're definitely thinking about going for Cooper Flag. The Wizards, they're definitely getting Cooper Flag. I'd be surprised if any other team gets that top spot in the draft because the Wizards are in full-on tank mode right now. The Hornets at 13 wins. So the 76ers, they can stay comfortable in 11th place, but they could surpass, especially the Chicago Bulls. They're going to need to if they want to get into the play-in tournament. So the big three hasn't worked out. And I do understand what Josh Harris is saying. He's happy that they're healthy, they're ready to go. I get it, but they need to show people that they are ready to go. Paul George is still messing with his finger. That's still hurting him. Joel Embiid clearly worried about the knee swelling a little bit. Tyrese Maxey is going on an absolute tear, but when is it going to click for the three of them? Now, they've only played 12 games, but you can't use that as an excuse that much longer because the season is starting to dwindle down and these games are becoming important to even give the 76ers a chance to play in the playoffs. So we're going to touch on that and more on the other side. Joel Embiid maybe needing some knee surgery. What does that mean for the rest of the season? What does it mean for after the season, for the future of him and the Philadelphia 76ers? I know y'all are wondering, so we're going to break it down on the other side right here on Locked On 76ers. All right, so holidays are coming up, and in particular, I mean Valentine's Day. And if you have that special someone, especially if it's a male figure in your life, a male partner, whatever that may be. I bring that up because Skims now has the deals for all the men out there. Now, personally, I love wearing Skims. I think it's great for any type of working out, leisure clothing too, undergarments as well. But now they also do have a men's line, which, ladies, if you want to get your man something special for Valentine's Day, this is a fantastic job. And I found out Skims was making underwear for men. It was definitely interesting to see that they were also to make that line for men as well, because they do such a good job of making it for the women too. I've heard so much about their quality from friends, family, that I got some, of course, for the ladies line. So I had to give it a try for the men's side and see what it really looked like out there. Let me tell you, it definitely lives up to the hype for people that I know that have actually been able to have it. It's always having some issues in terms of how the fit is and everything in between. And Skims is the perfect fit. And the men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. So the Skims, the Choose underwear line as well is what you want to look out for the men's line. If you're a man watching this, listening to this, and this is something that you want to be able to get, or if you're a lady trying to get your man's a special something for Valentine's Day, you can definitely check this out. They're perfect for the active lifestyle. They move as you need to. They never lose their shape, and they stay in place all day, every day. Whether you're working out or just running errands, they're the most comfortable and reliable that you've ever owned. Plus, the lightweight material feels amazing, almost like you are wearing nothing at all. So make sure you go check out Skims today. That's Shop Skims Men's at skims.com, and Skims Scores are definitely going to want to go check it out. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. And if you are looking for the perfect gift for Valentine's Day for your partner, Skims just launched their best Valentine's shop ever, available in sizes for women, men, kids, and even pets. So if you want to get your pet a little something, or your woman or your man, whatever that may be, make sure you head over to Skims today. It's a really, really good Valentine's Day gift. And Valentine's Day is this week, so you will not want to miss out. Make sure you go check it out today. All right, so what is going on with Joel Embiid? What is happening with Joel Embiid? So if you haven't heard the news by now, Joel Embiid said to ESPN reporter Lisa Salters that he believes he'll need to undergo knee surgery at the end of this season. Okay, this has been reported previously. This is something that Joel Embiid said, that got reported, and now there's all the reactions. So we're going to kind of reel that in and figure out what's really going on. The thing about Joel Embiid's injury, and this is something that my co-host Keith Pompey and I talked about really throughout, even the beginning of the season when you go into training camp, doctors have said that they should have shut Joel Embiid down for the rest of the season. Now, there was a situation, I think the 76ers were hoping that they would be better right now, that they would have an opportunity to win games without Joel, and that he could actually rest and get some time. Clearly, the 76ers aren't doing that, so they needed to bring Joel Embiid back. With that being said, there was definitely a time where even myself, I said, maybe you just shut them down for the rest of the season, because the 76ers, they didn't look good. This is before they won their 4th straight most recently, before they lost 5 out of their last 6 games. So, and I looked at that, I said, if the 76ers are going to lose, just shut Joel Embiid down the rest of the season, because you're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs, especially if you don't have Joel. You might not even make the play-in tournament at that rate. But they started to win some games. Everybody started to get healthy. Guys are starting to come back. And then you say, okay, maybe it is time for Joel Embiid to come back. But it is interesting because there are some doctors that said in the beginning of the season that maybe you should just shut him down. Maybe that should be that for the rest of the year. Because the issue with the injury is that it's all about how much pain he can play through. Not only that, but just the swelling of it. So Joel Embiid can have a good 1 or 2 or 3 games. But when you look at the playoffs, and this is what the 76ers are really looking at going forward, it's that you're playing games every other night. You're playing a series. You're not stopping. And then if you win that series, you're going to the next one, so on and so forth, right? Not that I think the 76ers are going to get past the first round, especially where they're going to end up being in terms of if they get into the play-in tournament and then win in the play-in tournament as well. But the longevity of the knee and being able to play a ton of games in a short amount of time is tough for Joel Embiid with the swelling. That's the reality of the situation. And that is going to be extremely tough, and the most tough when you look at the playoffs, because you don't want him to have to sit out during any playoff game at this point, because the 76ers are going to be underdog completely in the 2025 playoffs for the NBA. So they've consulted more than a half a dozen doctors, according to Joel Embiid, for the treatment on the knee, and Embiid can continue to play as long as the swelling and knee are monitored. Now, that's what you look at, because Joel Embiid can say, oh, I'm good to play, but if the swelling is too bad, probably not going to push it because it could damage him further. And how much do you want to damage Joel Embiid, knowing that you only are going to get possibly in the play-in in the first round and probably get knocked out? Is it worth it to even push him that far to cause further severe lifelong damage at this point is really what we're looking at. And at the same time, on top of that, having a situation where this team is probably not going to go far with or without him. And, you know, Sixers fan, I know you're not going to love to hear that. And I know fans from Philadelphia are probably like, no, let's bring this optimism from the Eagles winning the Super Bowl and let's move it over to the 76ers. Trust me, I understand where you guys are coming from, but I got to be the realist on here. I got to be realistic, because the point of the matter is that with a healthy or not healthy Joel Embiid, the 76ers aren't going far in the playoffs because everybody's banged up. Paul George's going to be banged up still. Joel Embiid, they're not deep enough. They are not deep enough to make a deep playoff run in this Eastern Conference with the Cavs, with the Knicks, and the Celtics. Those guys up there are untouchable. And then you got everybody else also in the Eastern Conference that are willing to compete, that are trying to compete to surprise some people. So when you look at Joel Embiid, and he's said some interesting things too, and he's kind of rescinded his statement as well. And, you know, basically saying, once again, go check out the article in the Philadelphia Inquirer by my co-host, Keith Pompey. But when you look at it, he says, I don't really know. I don't really know what's happening, in the sense of I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going on. And I don't really think you can predict what's going to happen with this knee if you need surgery until the end of the season to see how bad it is and see if it's better for him just to get surgery instead of, you know, just playing on it, trying to play through the pain and everything like that. And I know I've been stringing this along, people, but for everybody listening, everybody watching, wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast, it's not going to happen during this season unless something really crazy happens and he needs to be shut down. We're talking about an off-season surgery right now. And the thing about Joel Embiid, so he talked to Lisa Salters from ESPN, and he said that he might need to undergo surgery at the end of the season. But then he kind of rescinded his statement a little bit, and he said there's not much to say. I mean, the straightforward answer is when you've got something that is inconsistent, at some point we've got to do something about it. We don't know what it is. We are looking into every option at some point. And this is the thing about Joel Embiid. We all know that when Joel gets injured, when Joel is out, when Joel is sidelined, it takes him time to be able to come back and do what he needs to do. If he gets surgery, this doesn't only hurt his off-season productivity, it hurts next season. What do you do next year? Are you still building this team around Joel Embiid? Because if Joel Embiid gets a season out of season injury after the season's over, when do you look at it and say, this is now Tyrese Maxey's team? Because realistically, is Joel Embiid going to come back from that knee surgery and be the Joel Embiid that goes on and helps the 76ers win a championship and to build around him and it's Joel Embiid's team? How much longer can we keep that narrative going? I do think that Joel Embiid is the centerpiece, and we've kind of already seen that. But if another surgery happens for him, how much longer do you allow that to be the centerpiece of your team? Tyrese Maxey is balling out, and he is showing that he can be a centerpiece. I don't think we're there yet. I think you give Joel Embiid, in my honest opinion, 2 to 3 more years. But if he does undergo surgery at the end of the season and he's out the next half of the next season or whatever it may be, I think you start to look at options there. Because the last thing Joel Embiid wants is this team to go beyond him. Because then Joel Embiid, his whole, I want to be able to be the greatest player ever. And Joel can be dominant and he can do that. But that changes if you have a surgery at the end of the year and you can't come back and be dominant like you used to be. Because then the organization says, okay, well, yeah, we can build around Joel Embiid a little bit. That's talented and dominant when he can play, but he's not in his prime. Maybe let's shift over to Tyrese Maxey, who currently is in his prime, and Jared McCain that we saw a lot of glimpses of this year in his rookie season. I'm not saying that you look away from Joel Embiid whatsoever. That's not what I'm saying, people. So don't quote me on that and start saying that and getting frustrated in the comments. You can if you want. We're here for all the chaos. But at the same time, Joel Embiid is waiting to see the option because you don't want to get season-ending surgery or you don't want to get surgery at the end of the season. But at the same time, you want to make sure that this doesn't keep happening because if he doesn't get surgery, is it going to be the same story next year and the year after that to the point where it's like, oh, maybe he should have just gotten surgery to begin with? I don't know, people. So it's going to be interesting. He, once again, the surgery we're talking about at the end of the season, after the season is concluded. And this could change a lot of things for the future of the Philadelphia 76ers. You could be looking at Joel Embiid not being as dominant as you want him to be. And, you know, it could turn over to Tyrese Maxey's team. We don't know. What the reality of the situation is that it's a wait and see moment. But Joel Embiid is not getting surgery, as we know right now, in this season. He's going to wait till after the season if that's even an option. And once again, they're getting a ton of different inputs and seeing what they can do on the treatment plan for his knee, for the swelling, everything in between. So it's something we're going to monitor, though, because this could definitely affect the rest of the season and how that swelling continues, because that swelling is going to happen if it affects him playing back-to-back games, or I know he doesn't play in back-to-backs, but games, then a day break, then a game, because that's what it's like in the playoffs. So we are going to have to wait and see. When we come back, we're going to look ahead at the Raptors and Sixers preview, see how the 76ers absolutely should win this game. I don't care if it's no Joel Embiid, Paul George. The 76ers should win this game against the Raptors. There is zero excuse. The 76ers should not win this game against Toronto. So we're going to talk about that on the other side. Don't go anywhere. You're going to stay right here on Locked On 76ers. We have to tell you about our great sponsors over at FanDuel. FanDuel is fantastic. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly, people, instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So make sure you go check that out today. Just go to FanDuel.com to join. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. You're going to want to go check out FanDuel today for everything on your sports bet, and be sure to go place all those bets today. All right, so the Raptors are coming up, and before I say anything, let me know in the comments how you feel about this Raptors game for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, this is the thing. The 76ers having caveats of winning games they're not supposed to and losing games that they're supposed to win. Now, I will say this. They should have won against the Bucks. You had your big three. The Bucks didn't have Giannis. Now, when you look at this game, it's interesting because the Raptors were also kind of in a little bit of lava right now. Like the floor is lava for both of these teams, and they're just trying to survive at this moment into the season. So the Sixers, they're on a 3-game losing streak. We touched on that earlier in the podcast. The Raptors, they're on a 4-game losing streak. But the thing about the 76ers is that when you look at this big three, I've alluded to it already. They have not figured out how to play together. Paul George, his production is just not there right now, whether it's the finger, whatever it may be. And I don't even want to blame it on the finger because Paul George, when Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey were in the lineup earlier in the season, he still couldn't find his momentum, his chemistry. And there's been games even without Joel Embiid where Paul George hasn't been able. His shooting numbers are not there. His shooting numbers are some of his worst ever in his career. Now, I get it. He ain't PG-13 right now. He ain't playoff P. But the production value is very, very slim from Paul George. So when you look at this game, this is maybe a game that you could say, okay, another game with the big three, just trying to get comfortable together. They're going to be the 13th game of the season if they all play in that Raptors game. But the Raptors do enter this game on a 7-point loss versus the Houston Rockets, despite a 20-point performance by Emmanuel Quickley. So that was a big thing for the Toronto Raptors. They're also on a 4-game losing streak and 5 losses in the last 6. They are keen on capturing the flag. Now, the Raptors are in a weird situation. And it was kind of like we were talking about the Philadelphia 76ers, because there was a long time where we were talking about the Eastern Conference and the 76ers, if they should tank, if they should sit Embiid for the rest of the season. And the reality of the situation is they can't even tank correctly, because there's the teams below them, the Wizards and the Hornets, just in the Eastern Conference we're talking about, are not going to let the 76ers have any less wins than they will. I mean, the Wizards are keen on tanking for Cooper Flag. The Pelicans also only with 12 wins. The Jazz are right there on the side of the Western Conference too. This is the thing. The Raptors probably also want to capture the flag, but they're in that weird situation where they're not probably going to make the play-in, because right now the Nets are above them in 12 pace and the 76ers, but they're not going to be low enough to completely capture the flag. So with that being said, this Raptors team, you go in and you're a little bit worried, because when you look at it, you say this Raptors team has nothing to lose at this point. Right? They have nothing to lose. They are not probably going to get the number 1 pick. They're definitely not going to get the number 1 pick. To me, that's going to the Wizards. I'd be shocked if it doesn't. And they're not going to be good enough to make the play-in. Okay? So when you look at that, you say this Raptors team, that's a trap game. When you talk about trap games, and I know it's weird to say that at this point of the season because the Sixers are in 11th place. It's not like they're good or great or anything, but this is a trap game for the Philadelphia 76ers, because the Raptors, they have a really tough schedule after this. So they play the 76ers in Philadelphia. Then they take on the Cavs. They take on the Heat at home, the Suns, the Celtics, the Pacers, the Bulls, the Magic again. And then it only gets easier in March with the Jazz and the Wizards, and then the Wizards again. So when you look at that for the Raptors, this is also a game that they probably feel like they can win before they go on that tough schedule. So I expect the Raptors to come out, and I expect them to be aggressive and give the Sixers a physical game. That's what's going to happen. Of course, Nick Nurse, former coach of the Raptors, Kyle Lowry also played on that team, so a little bit of a personal connection there. But at the same time, I just think that the 76ers need to make sure they go into this game and not say, we're talented enough to win. That has been the 76ers' main problem as of late with this big three. Oh, they have Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey. They're talented enough. No, they're not. They're not talented enough. That's the reality of the situation. Because even if they were, they get beat and out-hustled by teams. Defensively, they look horrible. They're not going out and closing out on threes. The 76ers team is not talented enough to say, oh, we're talented enough. You can't do that. You're in 11th place on the season. You have 20 wins. You lost 5 out of your last 6. There is no more the big three is talented enough, because that's not going to happen. It didn't happen against the Bucks. It didn't happen against the teams before that, and it will not happen against the Raptors. Yes, on paper, the 76ers are a better team. They might not be as deep, but the Raptors are going to go out there and play a physical game. They got nothing to lose. They're going to go out there and give the 76ers a hard time at home in the Wells Fargo Center. So we will wait and see. This is a 76ers game that they need to win. This cannot be a trap game. I do think it can be a trap game, but it shouldn't be a trap game for the Philadelphia 76ers. They have an easier schedule than a lot of teams in the NBA. With that being said, they need to start winning games to ensure that they can get into that play-in picture and make sure that they are there to be able to compete for a playoff spot, at least in the first round. So the 76ers can't go into this game saying they're too talented. They have the big three. They're good. They're not. They're not. They need to go out there. They need to put their hands up on defense. They need to close out. It's crazy that I'm saying that for an NBA team, but that's the reality of the situation here. And they need to make sure that they have a good performance effort-wise. They need to put the effort out there, because you should not be a bad team and looking like they do when you have Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey on the same team. You shouldn't. That's what's happening, but you need to turn it up a notch. Turn it up actually 20 notches. Okay, the 76ers need to come out on top in this game. I think it's a must-win game. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, because once again, they just fell against the Heat. They fell against the Pistons. They fell against the Bucks. It's weird, though. They went against the Mavs in that game. They come out just by 2 points. The 76ers need to turn it around now. The Raptors in the next game are winnable games with or without Joel Embiid, with or without Paul George. Then you go against the Celtics. Okay, you can drop that one. What you can't do is you can't drop 2 more and then face the Celtics, okay? The 76ers absolutely need to win this game, a must-win game at this point of the season for the Philadelphia 76ers. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. Once again, I'm your host, Kayla Santiago. Thank you all so much for joining me, and we will see you guys next time. Once again, the Philadelphia 76ers take on the Toronto Raptors tomorrow at 7 p.m., and we will have the updates after the game. So thank you all so much for joining me on Locked On 76ers. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about the 76ers to this point of the season. If you're listening to us wherever you listen to podcasts, thank you all so much. And don't forget to check us out on our free daily newsletter that's on LockedOnDaily.com. Thank you all so much for joining me, and we will see you guys after the game.